When I was younger, I couldn't wait to get my period, but I had no idea what was coming. Endometriosis came into the picture, and let me tell you, it changed everything. Tankoul, aka sauce longue in French. It's a dish that exists in my culture, and this is the reason why I was eager to get my periods when I was younger. Because in order to make the base of this dish, you have to be a virgin girl who hasn't had her period yet. And even though nobody ever discussed menstruation as a thing, I hated the fact that everybody knew your business because of that dish. They would bring you the ingredients to make the base if they knew that there was a virgin girl who hasn't had a period in the household. And so if you hadn't had your period, you were seen by the rest of the community as pure. But if they stopped bringing it to you, so now you're a woman. And I hated that. I was 16 when I got my period, which was quite late compared to most. And it came as quite the shock because I was in class, not expecting that at all. My only saving grace was that I was wearing red jeans that day. I had been experiencing debilitating cramps all day, and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even know what it could be. And at some point, I went to the bathroom, and lo and behold, blood. And again, because I was wearing red jeans, the fact that I didn't have protection at the time mitigated the damage because you couldn't really see the stain on the jeans. But it was nonetheless a big shock. And I had to use toilet paper to protect my underwear and to stop the bleeding from, going everywhere. Then I got home and I used some, pads that I found in the bathroom that belonged to my mom. And that day was actually the first time I ever had a conversation with my mom about menstruation. As I already told you, we didn't talk about those things in my community and not in my family either. The cramps, the bloating, the diarrhea, the weak legs, any other symptoms that I experienced at the time hit me really hard. And the pain would last for days. The flow was so heavy, it made the toilet bowl look like a crime scene almost every time I had to go. And it really affected every part of my life. I was an athlete at the time. I was playing basketball, and it was very difficult because of the pain, the discomfort, and occasional accidents that would interrupt my game and really affect my performance. I needed to change pads and tampon several times during the game, sometimes several times during one quarter, which was really distracting and affected my game in general, but just my mood and everything that you can think of. It was really hard, not just for the physical struggle, but also the emotional one, because I was trying to live a normal life while experiencing something that made me feel abnormal. Actually, yeah, that's the term. I felt quite abnormal. It was like I was walking around with like a scarlet letter on my forehead, like everybody could tell all the time. It's hard to describe how bad the pain was, because if you've never experienced it, I really just don't know how to explain it to you. I've heard women who actually had children say that they managed labor pain much better because it was not as bad as the pain from their period. And I've never had children. I've never been in labor, so I can speak to that. But I just know it was bad. So there was that, and also sometimes I would be bleeding for a month straight. My cycle was all over the place, And then I had to start, asking questions around my family doctor, my gynecologist, and the only answers I would get was, well, you have your periods, you're gonna get some pain. Nah, deal with it. I kept being dismissed with the deal with it talk. And my gynecologist actually said to me at some point several times, well, whatever it is that you're dealing with, it will get better once you have children. And I was like, okay. I was a teenager at the time and had no plan on getting pregnant anytime soon. Matter of fact, I already knew by that time that I did not want to have children ever. And so that answer was not it at all, but that's the one I got. So what did I do to manage? I tried home remedies like, hot water bottles or heating pads, which would provide some relief in the moment. But then after a while, then the pain would come back even worse than before. I tried over-the-counter medication. I tried, different types of herbal teas, anything that I could read, that I read about, that I would be, that somebody would recommend, I would give it a try because I was that desperate. I just wanted something to work. It was really, really hard. And the worst part was that nobody talked about it. Not my friends, not my cousins, nobody around me. And I had no idea if anybody else around me was having that experience because nobody talked about it. And the only times I ever heard my friends or even my cousins mention it, it was when somebody needed some protection, like a pad or a tampon or something when we were out. But they always made it sound like that was all. Like their period were in and out with no trouble in between. And I felt like the odd man out or the odd woman out. I felt very alone in my experience, especially with the doctors brushing me off. The situation was awful. It took finding a second gynecologist. And by then, I was 26, so 10 years after I first got my period, to finally have someone who was willing to start exploring, investigating, and answering the questions for me and with me. And she put me on a medication that suppressed my periods, which was such a huge relief. And then we started exploring what was going wrong. This exploration led to my first laparoscopy, where they discovered and cleaned up the endometriosis. Before that second gynecologist had sent me for a test multiple times, which included multiple ultrasounds. And every time, or at least almost every time, I'll say, I would be told that they couldn't see anything. And I thought that it meant that there was nothing to be seen. And actually what they meant was that they could not see anything, because I'm one of those people, and I don't know if there's a name for that particular phenomenon, but I'm one of those people where you get an ultrasound and they cannot see your organs. So that's what was going on with me. And so they would say that to me, but then they would not do anything else, not send me for further exploration. That would be the end of it, until that gynecologist pushed through much more, and then I went under and got the laparoscopy. So I'm good for a while. No symptoms, no periods. I'm taking my medication daily. And then I moved to Canada and things get a bit more complicated, because it turns out the medication that I've been taking for over 2 years by that point, is not available in Canada. And so my family doctor here has to find a medication that's going to do the same job. And that took a while. That took some trial and errors. And if you've ever been through an experience where you had to try different types of medication before finding the right one, you know that it's not an easy process, because medication have side effects. And if you're someone like me who experiences a lot of the side effects that come with the medication, then it can be hell. So that's what happens. But I was committed to the process of finding something. So I tried everything that the doctor prescribed, and we would try for 2-3 months, and then figure out that it was not working. So then move on to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then I was put on. I was gonna say we put me. The doctor put me on artificial menopause, giving me something called Lupron. So they give you an injection, and then you're on menopause for 3 months. At least that was the case for me. I don't know if that's the case for everyone. So if you've ever experienced menopause, I'm sorry. I truly am. If you've heard about it, you probably heard of hot flashes, and they're no joke. You already know about my dislike of humidity and high heat in general, and baby, in my mind, that's what hell feels like. You're minding your own business, and all of a sudden, whoosh, fire in your face, all over your body. And you're in the office in the summertime, in an office that's cold because they have the AC on, so everybody's like, chill and all that, and I had to have a fan on my desk and answer a question. What's happening? What's going on with you? Why are you sweating like that? What's going on? Are you sick? Hell. Hell, 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 hell. But I had to go through it. And then finally, after a few months, we found what I would call the Holy Grail. Visanne! Or Dianogest, that's the generic name, which did the same work as the medication that I was taking in France. Took the pain away, took the periods away, took the no hot flashes, no nothing, and just I could breathe again. Because as I was testing those other medications, every once in a while, because they were not really working, the periods would come back. And yeah, not cool at all. So Visanne was like, after being put on the Visanne, everything was fine for a while, and then I started having some issues, and also found out that just because you had a surgery for endometriosis doesn't mean that you're not going to have it again, and doesn't mean that you're good to go for the rest of your life. Actually, the endometriosis can regrow, and the only way you can find that out is by having the surgery again. At least in my case. I don't know if for some other people you may be able to see it through ultrasound, but in my case, I need to go under. So this is what happened in 2012. Oops, I meant 2012. I ended up having a second surgery. At the time of that second surgery for endometriosis, I was dealing with the back pain from the car accident, and I was dealing with the insomnia also as a result of the car accident. But I was managing quite well. I was working a lot too. I had a full-time job, I had a part-time job, and I also had my own business doing event planning. And for the surgery, the doctor had told me, you should be good after about 2 weeks. So that's what I planned to take as time off. But my boss at my full-time job encouraged me to take a full month, because she said, you never take time off, you never go anywhere, you don't do anything except work. So why don't you take that opportunity to just rest and fully recover and just take it easy? So that's what I did. My mom came over to stay with me for 2 weeks when I had the surgery. And when I was discharged, the same day as the surgery, I could barely stand up. When you have laparoscopy, this is when it happens in your abdomen, they pump your abdomen with gas. And the gas is supposed to exit your body slowly but surely, and it didn't. It got trapped. It felt awful. I was so bloated. I felt like a balloon that was ready to pop, and I could feel it up to my neck, and I couldn't stand. Truly awful. The surgery itself was a success. They removed the endometrial tissue and the scars, the wounds actually, in my navel and on either side of it healed slowly but surely. The big problem was the back pain, which had been triggered by the extreme bloating, and it became so bad that I could barely move, and I had to start using a cane to move around, even in my apartment. And that turned into a long-term issue. The surgery was supposed to be a short-term thing, and unfortunately, my health took a big hit because within a few months, I caught a virus, which I think was something like a stomach bug, and I ended up in the ER. The virus eventually passed after about a month overall, but I developed other symptoms that were unrelated to endometriosis. And within a few months after that, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and sarcoidosis. And this marked the beginning of a much more difficult time in my life. Another episode where I was bedridden, this time for much longer, and I had to take a lot of medication, which I've already talked about, but I'll go into more detail as we go on in this journey. And that was rough. That second surgery for endometriosis was a pivotal moment because it led to a series of health complications. But in terms of endometriosis itself, the road since has not been as bad as the road before, which I'm grateful for. I was doing quite well and I didn't experience any debilitating symptoms until November 2022. Actually, it was 2023. Where when I had very severe abdominal cramps for a few days, and I ended up in the ER and had to have a battery of tests, including very painful external and internal ultrasounds, where they found a cyst, but they did not think that this was the reason why the pain was occurring. And ultimately, we don't really know what was going on, but we're keeping an eye on that. And my gynecologist is not ruling out the possibility of a third laparoscopy for endometriosis to see whether the tissue has returned. Unlike the early years of my dealing with endometriosis, which were pretty horrific, nowadays it's quieter on that front because I'm on Visanne and that I take it daily and I don't have my periods anymore and I don't have long periods of times where I'm in pain. But I still have moments where out of nowhere I'm going to start experiencing abdominal cramps for a few days, and sometimes it would be accompanied by spotting, and sometimes it would actually feel like actual periods where there's more blood. And because I don't have my periods, I don't know what my cycle is. So they're unpredictable. So I always have to be prepared. I always have to have something in my bag just in case. I just have to make sure. It's a bit unsettling because you want to be comfortable and not have to think about those things, but it's just like it has become a part of my kind of daily life. So I manage that way. And then when the pain and those cramps come, I use the pads, the heating pads, or again, like the same things that I used to do when I was younger with like some of the herbal teas that bring some comfort. But it's tough. It's tough to know what to do in those moments. But it's the worst part for me is really because every single time when I have those cramps that last for more than a few hours, even if it's like a couple of hours, that they immediately affect my back. And that's always the concern for me, because once that pain in my back is exacerbated, it just affects everything else. So much better, but still complicated. If you're watching this and you think that you may have endometriosis, or you think that you know someone who may have it, or somebody in your life, or maybe you just want to know more about it, let's go through what it is. From the Mayo Clinic, it's an often painful condition in which tissue that is similar to the inner lining of the uterus grows outside the uterus. It often affects the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and the tissue lining the pelvis. Rarely, endometriosis growth may be found beyond the area where pelvic organs are located. Endometriosis tissue acts as the lining inside the uterus would. It thickens, breaks down, and bleeds with each menstrual cycle. But it grows in places where it doesn't belong, and it doesn't leave the body. When endometriosis involves the ovaries, cysts called endometrial mass may form. Surrounding tissue can become irritated and form scar tissue. Bands of fibrous tissue called adhesions also may form. These can cause pelvic tissues and organs to stick to each other. Endometriosis can cause pain, especially during menstrual periods. Fertility problems also may develop, but treatments can help you take charge of the condition and its complications. The main symptom of endometriosis is pelvic pain. It's often linked with menstrual periods. Although many people have cramping during their periods, those with endometriosis often describe menstrual pain that's far worse than usual. The pain also may become worse over time. Common symptoms of endometriosis include painful periods. Pelvic pain and cramping may start before menstrual period and last for days into it. You also may have lower back and stomach pain. Another name for painful periods is dysmenorrhea. Pain with sex. Pain during or after sex is common with endometriosis. I forgot to mention that. Pain with bowel movements or urination. I can definitely attest to that. You're most likely to have these symptoms before or during a menstrual period. Excessive bleeding. Sometimes you may have heavy menstrual periods or bleeding between periods. And I forgot to mention that mine include clots. Yeah, very, very bad. And scary at times when you look at it. Infertility. For some people, endometriosis is first found during tests for infertility treatment. Other symptoms, you may have fatigue, definitely, diarrhea, yep, constipation, yep, bloating, yep, or nausea, yep. These symptoms are more common before or during menstrual periods. The seriousness of the pain may not be a sign of the number or extent of endometriosis growth in your body. You could have a small amount of tissue with bad pain, or you could have lots of endometriosis tissue with little or no pain. Still, some people with endometriosis have no symptoms. Often they found out they have the condition when they can get pregnant or after they get surgery for another reason. I hope that this video was helpful to anybody who might be dealing with a similar situation, or anybody who just wanted to know more about the condition. I will be sharing some resources in the description box, and I hope that we can have more conversation about that topic and others in the comment section. So don't hesitate to comment. I always appreciate hearing from you. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.